So I know that some of my Presbyterian friends have to rush off to choir practice at 8, so I thought I might go ahead and start, because I know some folks have to duck out. And not that I'm going to talk for that long by any stretch. But first of all, I wanted to thank To Be Continued Bookstore. Thank you guys, Sergio and Karen, so much for allowing us to have this reading here. And I'm really excited to be here to do that, because one of the things that I really think about in my scholarly work is the relationship between actual communities where economic activity is taking place and these larger ideas about what we value as a society. And I know that one thing I really, really value about Metuchen is our downtown and the ability to come to a business where you know the people and they say hello to you, and they're willing to host a book reading for you. So thank you guys so much for that. So what I thought I would do, rather than read from the book for 20 minutes, I thought that I would just tell you a little bit about how I got interested in this topic and sort of where I situate my book in sociology. And then if people are interested, if you have questions, I'd be happy to take questions for 5 or 10 minutes or something like that before folks have to go elsewhere. But anyway, I was actually thinking about how I got interested in this topic, and Sam and I were talking about this the other night. I said, I don't even remember really how I ended up working on Wal-Mart. And I think for most of us, I'm trained as a sociologist, and I think for most of us in the social sciences, there are things that we're interested in studying that have some sort of personal connection to who we are and the things that we care about or the things that we think about. And it occurred to me that I most definitely grew up in a family where I knew that the marketplace and the economy was a place that issues of justice were really important. And I think probably because of my parents, always had this kind of idea that what we do with our money really matters. And I was also raised by Presbyterians who really come from this long line of Calvinists who, right, you know, John Calvin, Weber wrote about Calvin and the idea of the Protestant ethic, and really thinks that this is part of what led to capitalism in Western Europe, thrift, you know, asceticism, restraint. And so I think even in my own family, I knew that there were important things to think about in terms of the market and the kinds of places that we shopped and the way that they treat their workers. But then also that it was really important to save money and that thrift was a moral value too. So these things are always competing, and I think they're the kinds of things that we think about oftentimes when we're making our own economic decisions. So as a sociologist, I really work within this perspective that markets and how we spend our money and the places we shop are places where we act out something about what we value. They're a place where we actually construct moral meanings. And so even though economists would say that, you know, human beings are rational actors, we're always making these economic decisions in a rational way, sociologists often want to talk back to that and say, actually, we make a lot of economic decisions for reasons that are not at all rational. Right? You might come to be continued to buy a book because you really like the store and you like the community, even though crazy things might happen. There, you wouldn't get that at Barnes & Noble. Right? So there are ways in which we make these decisions because of the things that we value, and actually making these economic decisions, we're actually constructing a kind of moral meaning. But then these meanings are also contested. I think that's one of the reasons that in many cases the kinds of issues that animate our politics, the kinds of things that seem to be so conflictual, whether it's immigration reform or banks that are too big to fail, or the Tea Party movement or Occupy Wall Street, these are all really about economic issues at some level, and they're conflictual because people have these different understandings of what the good should be and what a moral kind of arrangement looks like. And so in my research, I was really interested in trying to understand at a deeper level the way that these kinds of moral frameworks might be in conflict with each other. So the idea that a store like Wal-Mart offers us really great prices. You can stretch your dollar further. It's often efficient to go to Walmart. But at the same time, those things come at a cost too, and they come at a cost to the workers who are employed there, who in many cases are making less money than they would have been making at a kind of mom and pop retailer, or the workers in the global supply chain that we don't see when we go to shop in Walmart, the people who are making items that can be sold very cheaply there. So I was really interested in looking more closely at how different perspectives on the economy get talked about in public, and what we could really understand from that about what we value as Americans, and how it is that people on both the right and the left, especially activists or people involved in economic social movements, how it is that they're referencing these moral ideas. And at the particular time that we're living in right now, I also think Walmart was a really great case study of populism, but whether folks are critical of Walmart or supportive of Walmart, they really are kind of constructing this idea of looking out for the little guy. So Walmart is sort of the working man's hero, right? This is the place where families can go and actually buy more things. And one of the pieces of text that I actually looked at in my research, people say things like, Walmart helps me be more than average, right? I'm an average American, but Walmart makes me feel more than average. And on the other side, unions and other progressive advocates really see themselves as being advocating for the worker, really being spokespeople for this larger group of ordinary Americans. And so I was really interested in entering into that kind of debate and thinking about what that language can tell us. The book is really about language and arguments and what that can tell us about some of the ways that our morals and our moral worldview as Americans are contested in these kinds of issues. So what I'd like to read for you tonight is just a short excerpt from a chapter where I'm giving some of the background on Walmart as a controversial entity. And I start out with a quote from Jon Stewart on The Daily Show, where he says, "The retail giant has launched a massive PR campaign to combat a recent wave of negative stories, ranging from being sued for allegedly making employees work off the clock, to being sued for allegedly paying female workers less than men, to being sued for allegedly hiring illegal aliens. And it's also building a superstore next to an ancient Mexican pyramid, and another one over a Hawaiian burial ground. And I guess you could say they've destroyed the fabric of small-town America. But on the positive side, $3 for a refrigerator, that's awesome." All right. December 22nd, 1992 turned out to be an important day for both the history and the future of the Walmart Corporation. As Robert Slater tells the story, shortly before Sam Walton died, he had reluctantly agreed to give a pre-Christmas interview to Dateline NBC's Jane Pauley, whose producers pitched the story as a positive exploration of Walmart's winning retail strategies. Keeping the company's commitment after Walton's death, the company's new CEO, David Glass, gave the interview, only to be surprised midway through by footage from a Bangladesh factory in which children were making garments that would later be found under a Made in America shelf label at a local Walmart. Glass ended the interview immediately and returned days later for a scheduled rebuttal, in which he assured viewers that the company had handled the situation and that any allegations to the contrary might result from disagreement concerning what age group constituted children. Although surprisingly little fallout occurred from the Dateline story in terms of sales, the event marked Walmart's realization that it could no longer fly under the radar when it came to public opinion. While Sam Walton had managed to present the company as something of a quirky underdog, aided by Walton's public image as a backwoods billionaire who drove an old pickup truck, got $5 haircuts, and borrowed change to make phone calls, Walmart had entered the big leagues of muckraking journalism. The events of December 1992 notwithstanding, the first decade of the 21st century was surely the most difficult in the country's history. Although NIMBY-type movements opposing Walmart, by NIMBY I mean not in my backyard, type movements opposing Walmart construction began appearing in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Walmart's newer criticisms have less to say about putting mom-and-pop retailers out of business at a local level, and more to say about the company's broader labor practices, environmental impact, and subsidization by public tax dollars. While Walmart could more easily respond to criticisms about undermining smaller retailers with its standard reply that these merchants had only themselves to blame for not adequately serving the customer's needs, the criticisms facing the company in more recent years strike right at the heart of Walmart's very identity as a cost-cutting, efficiency-obsessed mega retailer. particularly during the time period under scrutiny in this study, a time of sustained economic gains following the post-9/11 recession and before the housing bubble burst and the financial crisis of 2008 developed. Criticisms of Wal-Mart evolved into a sustained public debate that attracted the attention of national newspapers and presidential hopefuls. This public debate in the mid-2000s found a multitude of voices chiming in on all sides, with labor advocates alleging that Wal-Mart had decimated decades of hard-won union gains, environmentalists worrying about Wal-Mart's role in creating waste and suburban sprawl, economists crediting Wal-Mart with lowering inflation, and shoppers raving about how much they saved on groceries. As The Economist noted wryly in late 2006, even evangelical Christians found fault with some of the retailers' attempts to attract higher-income, progressive urban shoppers. Even former presidential candidate John Kerry issued a statement after a member of a pro-Wal-Mart group used the term Hezbocrats to refer to Democrats who had been critical of the company. Kerry took care to emphasize Wal-Mart's responsibility to American workers, saying, "Make no mistake, those who push and prod Wal-Mart to be a decent corporate citizen are standing up for the American worker. Decent wages and affordable health care aren't too much to ask from the largest employer in the United States." Like Kerry, other progressive advocates at the time framed the issue as one largely about the rights and well-being of workers in retail service jobs, most of whom are unorganized and earn wages too low to support families with children. For these advocates, such shortcomings seem simply unacceptable in the comparatively prosperous era in which Americans now live. For Wal-Mart's supporters, however, the issue is one of perspective and market realism. The New York Times columnist John Tierney, for example, argued that the protectionist rhetoric of the Wal-Mart critics privileged the rights of American workers over those laborers in developing countries, where industry and manufacturing plants for Wal-Mart suppliers and other similar retailers have encouraged unprecedented economic development. If you want to help them, Tierney concluded, remember a new social justice slogan: act locally, think globally, shop Wal-Mart. Others who have been critical of Wal-Mart's detractors emphasize that Wal-Mart is merely one actor in the free market, offers jobs to those who otherwise might not be employed, lowers prices for families who are trying to make ends meet, and serves the well-being of large groups of consumers through things like lowering prices on prescription drugs to just $4. An editorial in the Wall Street Journal rationalized Wal-Mart's decision to undercut its competitors on prescription drug prices by saying, Wal-Mart isn't a charity, and its $4 decision is designed to lift its own sales by undercutting prices at competing retailers. But that's the way the market works, driving prices lower with competition. It turns out that Wal-Mart's critics really don't care about prices. What they want is more union clout and more government control over health care. From this perspective, Wal-Mart's critics are foolishly asking Wal-Mart to ignore the rules of market competition and are motivated by their own ideological desire to see more government intervention in labor laws and health care. So thoughtful observers of this debate, and I assume everyone in this room is one of those people, thoughtful observers will find both aspects, or aspects of both perspectives, compelling. But however convincing those arguments on either side might be, to me, the Wal-Mart debate is of interest for another reason entirely. The debate over Wal-Mart offers us an opportunity to study the language that both conservative and progressive Americans use to construct different frameworks of economic morality in the public sphere. Much in the same way that immigration reform elicits impassioned arguments about undocumented workers, or that President Bush urged American consumers to go shopping to ward off a recession after 9/11, the Wal-Mart controversy represents just one of many current public issues in which we, as the American public, are invited to think about the potential of market logic. In other words, this framework in which the laws of economics and capitalist markets are considered as potential agents in the solution of larger social problems. The Wal-Mart debate is also a valuable case study of two competing versions of populist politics, each contending that their constituency is a moral and virtuous representation of the people against the powerful. In defining populism, the historian Michael Kazin has emphasized the significance of rhetoric itself in communicating populist goals. Populism is therefore, I'm quoting here, a language whose speakers conceive of ordinary people as a noble assemblage, not bounded narrowly by class, who view their elite opponents as self-serving and undemocratic, and seek to mobilize the former against the latter. Although whom each side of the Wal-Mart debates frames as the selfish and undemocratic opponents differs considerably, both activist groups seek to define their opponents in broadly populist, people against the powerful terms. So while the issues at the center of the Wal-Mart debate revolve largely around matters of economics, how much employers should be required to contribute to health care, or the fine line between acceptable success in the free market and unacceptable monopoly dominance, the debate captures our attention because these market issues are directly connected to larger questions about the nature of the common good and the well-being of ordinary people in the wake of capitalism's intractable inequalities. So I won't keep you for too much longer, but if anyone has questions about Wal-Mart or about the book or a comment, I'd love to hear.
I was going to suggest someone who works at Walmart to say something. How do you feel?
Like what? How are you treated? It's a little bit of both. On one hand, the Wal-Mart Corporation, they expect a lot of you, and it's very frustrating because you're only human. You can only do so much. And then on the other hand, it's the customers. The customers who come in, they don't care. And they will tear the store apart. And then you spend 2 hours fixing it up. Somebody will see you there, they come, tear it apart again. And yet, you know, the store personnel, they want the store perfectly clean by closing time. And it's extremely difficult. So.
Clothing, I guess, in particular.
Yeah, I'm in the apparel department.
Oh.
The store. One here in Edison?
Yeah.
Well, I can't help thinking that when that opened up, it was kind of a boon for the area because, you know, we kind of needed something like that. My husband and I disagree a lot because I do like the prices. I am unemployed, but he has a very social conscience and doesn't want to see people getting mistreated and so forth. But
We fight over
I do think that, you know, people got jobs out of that opening. And I often will go there to do my grocery shopping because I don't want to walk through 15 aisles. I can get everything within 4, you know, if it's just a small shop.
Well, I think you're talking about a very real personal experience of the kind of tensions that I'm trying to look at in the book, and that, you know, yes, there are larger systemic kinds of arguments about why Walmart is really maybe not such a great thing for not just the United States, but the larger global economy. But on the other hand, right, there are real economic pressures that all of us feel that make it very difficult for that to be a cut and dry issue. Amy?
You know, I think our perspective's a little warped out here on the East Coast and in suburbia because when you get out into rural America, you know, Walmart did a great service to many, many communities where they, in Tallahassee, you have to drive 2 hours to get to a store. Wow. So, you know, my son has gone to school in various places in various parts of the country where Walmart was really the only place you could go to get everything you need. And, you know, my dad used to own Metuchen hardware, so I'm very sensitive to the Home Depots and all that stuff. But the reality is, life changes. If people don't want retail shops to go away, then don't spend your money on the internet. It's really simple. If you have to support your local stores if you want them to succeed. And I don't think it's the evil Walmarts that come in or the evil Home Depots. They're only coming in because there's a need. And so I guess I'm a little, even though my father did experience going out of business partially due to those pressures, the marketplace changes. That's what happens. That's what keeps it fresh and alive. And if you don't want that business, don't shop it.
Well, in some ways, I think, too, what may have happened in many communities is that big box stores do come in. But there are many needs that big box stores can't really respond to because by nature they're standardized. You know, right? You walk into a Target in Edison, New Jersey. It's laid out exactly the same way as the Target in San Antonio, Texas, where my parents live. And they're not going to necessarily respond very well to local niches. So in some ways, big stores like that do create a niche for smaller merchants that are interested in filling needs that aren't being met by those places. But you're right, it does depend on us to go and to shop there, right? And we have to decide that that's where we're going to use our money.
Yes, and I want to second Amy's. That's what I was going to say. Like here, we have so many options, but like way out in the middle of nowhere, like people want the same products that we have, and we can get them in 10 different stores, but they can only get them there, you know?
Right.
I was in San Antonio in December, and I got so messed up because what's in aisle 1A here?
Man, are you proving me wrong? All right. So maybe that example was a little misplaced.
The quote that you mentioned in the beginning of someone saying that they shopping at Walmart made them better
Feel
than
more
average.
than average. Yeah.
Feel more than average. In what respect was that? Was it? How did it make them feel more than average?
Right. So, in some ways, I think, like I noticed, you're almost on the verge of laughing a little bit with that question.
No. I genuinely want to know.
Well, no, it really. So it's a very good question because by definition, anything you get at Walmart, like a million other people could get there, right? And I know you well enough to know that you probably would not, go to Walmart to, buy something really distinctive, for instance, right? One of the big sources of data for my project was actually a group called Working Families for Walmart that organized a website where people would submit their stories or sort of their testimonials of why they were supporting Walmart. And so that's a quote from someone who had written in to articulate why they did not want to see Walmart be the object of so much public criticism. So I think, I don't know because I didn't interview that person.
I didn't know if there was more, if the quote...
Right. But one of the things that I just found was a pattern in terms of the kinds of things that people who were really big fans of Walmart wrote in. It really was, really about the sense of economic constraints that many middle Americans feel about how do I get that new pillow for my sofa, and I really want to have a picture taken of all of my family that can hang over the mantle, and I can afford that at Walmart. So in many cases, these kind of testimonials were about really central markers of middle class identity. And so, I think that particular speaker was probably referencing something like that. But I think that's a very good question.
Yeah. We'll talk later.
I wonder about the television ads where Walmart employees, or maybe they're not, I don't know, but they appear to be Walmart.
Actors,
yeah.
Right.
I've heard that they're coerced to do what they do under duress. It's not
the actors or Walmart employees?
Well, whoever is on television. The people who say, this is a wonderful place, I love my job, they treat me fabulously. It sounds like it's not true.
Right.
Just because it's so exaggerated.
Right.
Welcome
So
to
I
the
don't-
workplace. I mean,
Yeah, I never care.
I'm supposed to be happy every day at work. I feel like a lot of the anti-Walmart stuff, I kind of want to go, are you all in academia, or do some of you work in businesses? I mean,
Right.
I don't know if I care as a consumer how they treat their employees. If employees are unhappy, they shouldn't be there.
Well, but if that's...
We want to be mistreated.
I'm sorry. But it's not that I don't care about her, but people make choices that when they go to work. And if they don't like the environment, they leave.
Well, sometimes you don't have that choice, you need your benefits, that sort of thing.
You need to support your family.
I think many of us make I think as Americans, we really like the rhetoric of choice. We really like to feel like we have a lot of freedom and an individual authority that's sort of knit into our DNA as Americans. But I I don't know, how many of us really feel like we have a choice to stay at our jobs? I mean, we do
right
them,
now.
right?
Not right now, in the last few years. No.
Yeah, especially in the last few years. We are living in a different world than we were 5 years ago. Yeah. And Steve.
Rebekah, has anyone examined from like a macro perspective the trade-off of the wages that Walmart pays versus the low prices, and in a net sense, has it contributed to greater inequality?
There are some studies that have looked at regional labor markets, and they find that overall Walmart has had a slightly depressing effect on the overall wages. I don't know that that's because it's actually pushing other wages down. I think it means that higher wage jobs.
Well, there's a trickle back, that they're one of the largest employers, and if they don't pay their employees a certain amount, they spend less in other businesses.
That's right, and everyone has to kind of compensate. I think too, some of the research that I've seen as well on right-to-work states that are really looking at how cost of living and wages are connected in states where you don't have to be a member of a union in certain industries. Overall cost of living is lower there, but wages are also lower. So I think, it makes sense that would happen. So I don't know if I've fully answered your question.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
And Walmart itself has commissioned, or there's a number of more conservative think tanks that have found that Walmart does potentially lower inflation for the American economy, or that it saves the average American family $2,000 a year, which is not an insignificant amount of money. Right? Dan.
I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, 25,000 people, and we had a Walmart, and I remember it, folks. But my interesting take is there was a much smaller town called Madill, Oklahoma, that was not very far away from us, and it was a town that was really not doing very well, and a Walmart came in there, and it was like no one could even believe that Walmart was moving into this small community.
They were very excited.
But it changed the town. In a lot of these rural areas, like out here, I just don't think we needed a Walmart. We didn't need a Walmart in Edison. We can get whatever we want anywhere we want within 10 miles of this place. But in that little community, Walmart did a very good thing for that town. And it wasn't just for the town, it was the whole surrounding area. People that used to have to drive 100 miles to get, stereo, tires, just had to drive 10 miles maybe.
Right.
And it really changed the way, and it provided a lot of jobs.
Right.
And it just was but that was in the 70s, so things have changed a lot since then.
Right, and in the 70s, many of the things that were sold at Walmart were still made in the United States.
Yes.
Right. I want to emphasize too, I don't think these issues are black and white. And people always, when they find out I was writing about Walmart, would say, well, what do you think? Do you shop at Walmart? And I sort of try to take a more sort of atheistic position here, or more agnostic, I guess is what I want to say. That I'm not, I'm really more interested in what we can learn about ourselves as Americans. I wasn't disavowing God. Sociologists have this thing that we call methodological atheism, which basically means you're sort of not committed to, you're not hoping to find any particular answer. You're really just committed to the method and what it's going to reveal to you. So I think this is interesting precisely because these issues really aren't clear cut. Right? So the towns where Walmart has gone in and built a huge store, and then it turned out to not be profitable, and Walmart packed up and left. Now that's a town that has been harmed by Walmart, right? Because then you have this huge infrastructure that no one else is going to come in and occupy. It's not taken care of. The weeds start growing through the asphalt, and so as a community in Metuchen, like we might have, if it were a retailer here in our town, we would be probably more invited to have a say in what happened to that property. But when it's a corporation in a very, very far away place, then there's not so much of an incentive to actually take care of the places in its stores if they don't. Arlo, then Allison.
I'm hearing part of the conversation, which is a little different too from what was in the book, was Rebekah was also mentioning the global effects the global labors, we've been studying the youth group at Metuchen. I work there, so it's a shameless plug. We've been studying like what this means, and Rebekah quoted that there's a debate about what it means to be a child, and whether or not it's okay to employ, well, a 12-year-old. So understanding, I think something to keep in mind is, yes, it is a huge part of our communities, but also that we're setting up a systematic situation abroad, which I think is, Rebekah used a great phrase of workers seen and unseen. So it's really easy just to talk about workers here, and what we want for them too, of course, don't get me wrong, and working conditions for people, but also we're debating what a child is, and when we really look at these conditions, there are kids working for metal and getting cancer at age 12 because they're putting things in for our phone and pieces that are, there's some great documentaries I could recommend, but it's something, I don't know, I haven't heard that in our discussion, and I really heard it in Rebekah's book, and I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, thank you. I think I really appreciate you calling attention to that, and because we do live in such a globalized economy, I think it's harder for us to escape those kinds of ethical questions than it was in an earlier generation. We at one time in the United States also employed children, right? Yes. But we as a nation decided that that was unacceptable, and we passed laws to say that that was not going to be allowed in our legal framework. So there are people who say it's really up to China to decide what is going to be acceptable for workers in China. Geopolitically that's probably true, but then we also have to ask these kinds of questions about what we're willing to participate in. I know some folks have to think. Allison, sorry.
2 questions.
Okay, you can be maybe one more question after this, or one more comment.
Can I have my ball question?
Yeah. I just really wanted to come to NA, like, you really feel the pressure.
No, they're short. Did you have any direct contact with the Wal-Mart Corporation when you're writing this book? Because the logo is the Wal-Mart logo, right? And were they breathing down your neck?
Well, it kind of is, but the legal department at NYU assured me that we were not going to get sued. Yeah, I didn't do the cover design. I sort of told them, maybe like some pictures of people protesting at a Walmart or something. And when I saw the cover art, I said, this is great, but let's just clarify. I don't want to get sued by Bentonville. So Walmart actually, but your question wasn't really about the logo.
No, well, I wanted to know if you had direct contact with the company, and did they want to know what your research was and what was going to be in the book, and was there any policing
I made
that
a few efforts to pull on some networks of people that I knew that were connected there and didn't have any success.
You have to dial a 1-900 number, right? That's how they do their suppliers, right? Yeah. There's a 1-900 number for the supplier.
Yeah.
Before the internet, I don't know what's on it.
Yeah.
And the other question, when you were talking about towns that had a Walmart come in and then leave, does that happen very often?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, you go in and you put in a store, and you're expecting it to be profitable because it's really a kind of mathematical equation for the larger corporation. And so if a store isn't profitable, it's not worth it for the company to actually keep it there. So yeah, there are plenty of horror stories of the town that Walmart built and then left. And so I think that does happen. I think it happens less now potentially because I do think that Walmart has a sense of being more in public scrutiny. That its actions are watched more closely. I think that's also changed in our new economic context. I think that some of the tide or the momentum that gave these progressive groups a little more wind in their sails is, it's really hard to criticize the store that's helping a lot of people make ends meet in tough times.
You mentioned public financing, I think. But I didn't hear any further.
Right. So one of the arguments is that oftentimes because communities know that Walmart will be a generator of traffic, maybe create jobs and things like that, Walmart is able to negotiate all kinds of public tax breaks so that they're not going to be contributing to the public infrastructure of the community in ways that smaller businesses without as much clout might have been. And then the other kind of argument is about if Walmart is not providing, say, health insurance to its workers, many of those workers end up on Medicaid because they may not have insurance and then it's basically a publicly funded sort of subsidizing of a corporation's workers.
For me, have you looked into the benefits like Wal-Mart offers against Costco, which is like the gold standard of retail
Yeah,
benefits?
so Costco is really sort of the golden child of the retail world in terms of worker satisfaction, comparatively low employee turnover. Costco does have a union. I should know this if the CEO is still Jim Sinegal.
No, he's not.
No, he was. He's the guy who spoke at the Democratic convention.
He's not.
He's not there. He was the ex-CEO.
Okay.
Yeah, they give health insurance for part-time employees.
Right, and Jim Sinegal, I mean, I don't know what the current CEO is doing, but he reportedly drew a salary of like $350,000 a year, and that was it. So I think that Costco as a company maybe had a little bit broader sense of profit sharing with employees. And also, you know, Costco's much, much smaller than Walmart. Like, we think they're the same, but they're actually very different in that Walmart is a much, much bigger operation.
Is it?
Yes, yes.
In terms of revenue? I think so. Maybe in terms of number of branches.
And in terms of international presence too, the market share of consumer product goods.
But it makes me feel better if I drive into that plaza, go to Costco, you know, versus Walmart, because, yeah, I feel like.
Thank you all so much for being here and for your comments and questions, and support Main Street Metuchen. I want no one to feel any pressure. You might be able to buy it online.
Are you allowed to sign on behalf of your wife? No. Allowed to sign on behalf of
You don't want my simulator.
She loves the next door neighbor who comes to the super
Yeah, I know. Here we go. We were on.
You're an exercise and you should. Yes, light one. Yeah, that's it. Going worth going out. Going up in there, experience.
Somewhere in his school. Oh wait, no, he isn't actually. I took James' house is listed.
One of those. I don't care about gluten, but no raisin. No, cranberries are light. This is good. We'll try that one.
It's not sweet.
Okay.
You're going to make it syrup. It's a different type of
that way I can feel healthy. Oh, so is that he's getting corrected. Oh, I can imagine. Maybe in the bar. Thank you. famous. We just had to, imaginary galaxies. Arlo, thank you for coming. Bless you for coming. You know what the cycle of
no matter how crazy.
I can remember the moment where it was like the perfect day. Thank you. For me, you get that exuberant like, hey, spring is here, but that doesn't make up for Southern California.
I can dance.
Don't tell Brenda I was here because I brought quiet. I saw the most choir member confused, so I was like, stupid question.
I'm naturally I'm okay. But if you after finding out high probability He's a great guy.
I think that was really and like this. Well, I was going to drink
Compared to the other
But then they are within that
I
I always ready to
Is this the hour?
I know you well enough to know that you would never talk about
I was surprised I got here. I know. And they can see it. This how do you have water now? Money I was upset just being it kind of threw my things up. I was reveling in the fact that my daughter feeling that may change and No, you were excellent. I was so interesting. I love the way you were
Actually, I told your daughter how much we love to
have the card because the kids are on. The kids are on. The grandkids are on the card, so it's very adorable. Yeah, it's so adorable. It's so adorable. Yeah, Melissa has these business cards, and the grandkids are on. No, she doesn't have them. They're so big. That way. Like you have to.
Was it her?
Thank you very much.
Are you riding back? Yeah, I hope you have blinkers on your bike. No, but you need blinkers. But those people are crazy. Did you go down the road? I will just ride on the sidewalk. Do you have a road bike or do you have a hybrid? Or a hybrid? Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That's fine. Here.
Yeah, what are they doing? They're having a reception. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have said that. Can't you tell I'm so completely
It's all right. I was surprised if it was available, but on Amazon it's available.
Yeah, that's what it says free, so it should be.
Yeah.
So maybe it's coming.
Yeah. Where's this thing at? Which place?
No pizza?
Which one is that?
The Cornerstone.
Oh, the Cornerstone. Okay.
Let me speak English.
Yeah, English.
Okie dokie.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was interesting. The people asking the questions were the same debate that's everywhere about Walmart. They all ask the same debate.
But she didn't answer it. I wondered, how is Walmart really different from Kmart? Even Kmart was always the big box store. But I guess they kind of talked about it a little bit with Costco also being a big box store. But maybe they didn't infringe on people's wages or their. But it's always supply and demand. If we demand the cheap goods, they're going to supply it through unfair work practices in China.
The question about the person said you made my life better or made me. Yeah. That's because they can buy more with less money, so their standard of living went up. That's why that person made that.
That comment was from Jon Stewart. It was like a joke. He said he made him feel,
No, she said she saw it on a thing.
Oh, okay.
It was the person that said that they felt better.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's just weird, I mean, it's first, and yeah, it's true.
West Marine did the same thing for the boating industry. Exact same thing. Wiped it out. Wiped out all the stores.
An evolution of consumerism.
Yeah, and now the internet's doing the same thing.
It's actually just bigger. It's very true. Because I was talking to a lady at Pizza. I went up to buy some cookies, and of course got some soap while I was there. How could I not? And she was saying that it's not so much Main Street, but the ease of shopping from your pajamas.
I sat on the couch for months, okay? I did all my Christmas shopping on my iPad, okay? Even Walmart, if you spend $40 or more, you get free shipping. So why would I even get in my car and drive over there if I could sit there on my iPad and order from Walmart and it's going to come for free? Why would I want to go there? Exactly, at the park. Yeah.
Smell
it.
Experience it. It's really, yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that all the debate, there's different opinions here.
Oh, sure. Even in the touches.
Even in the touches.
Yeah,
all right, thanks.
Comment by that lady about choosing to work there. She walked in after the fact.
Yeah.
Bobby is an illustrator, she's a great artist. She's got 2 kids on her own. So, how much of a choice really is it for her? Versus
getting a job at Costco versus Walmart? I don't know.
We can't get a job at Costco. It's hard to get a job at Costco because they pay better. They have better benefits. Costco is a whole different thing.